I've been using this Panasonic Lumix G85 over the last 5 years now, and in that time there's a number of features that I use on a regular, consistent basis that help me to capture great videos. These tips and features are going to be useful if you're new to using the G85, and who knows, they might even be useful if you've been a user for the G85 of some time now. If you're new to the channel, my name is Mike Mandigo, and this is Passion Video. Thanks for stopping by. The first few features I want to talk about have to deal with the make and model of this camera. The first is the weather-resistant build, and this means that you can use it in light rain, snow, and dust. Just be careful if you're using adapted lenses on your G85, because sometimes those adapted lenses don't have the weather sealed, and then you could be susceptible to getting moisture or dust or even snow inside close to where your sensor is, and you could potentially harm your camera. So that's just one thing to be cautious of if you're using adaptive lenses. The next feature I want to talk about on the camera body that's cool is the 3-inch rotatable touchscreen. And this allows you to capture videos at various angles. It also allows you to set focus and access certain features through the touchscreen. Another cool feature that comes with this camera that I don't really use too often because I wear glasses most of the time is the viewfinder, but it does come in handy on really bright days when you're having a hard time seeing the monitor screen. You can look through the viewfinder to compose your shot and make sure that everything's in focus and whatnot. The next cool feature on the camera body is the mic jack. This is going to allow us to plug in an external microphone, and in turn, this is going to help us to capture better audio for our videos. One of the downsides to the G85 is there's no headphone jack for us to monitor our audio playback, but there is a hack that you can get around through listening to your audio if you have an external microphone, and I made a video that talks about how you can do this. You can check it out right here. The next cool feature I want to talk about on the camera body is the FN buttons, which stand for function buttons. The G85 has 5 physical function buttons and 5 digital function buttons, which you can access through the touchscreen. These function buttons are going to allow you to program the features that you use on a most regular basis. They're going to allow you to program those to have easy access. This is going to save you time from having to go through the menu each time you want to use one of these specific tools and features. I also made a video that talks about how you could set up your G85 for video and how to program these features and your FN buttons, and you can check that video out right here. I think that pretty much covers the cool features that I like about the camera body, but if there's something that I might have missed or there's a feature that you like about the camera body itself, talk about that down in the comments, and from there we'll move on to some of the internal features of this camera that I think are really beneficial for a G85 user. So the G85 is able to capture 4K at 24 frames per second and 30 frames per second with a bit rate of 100 megabytes per second. If you're editing your videos on a 1080p timeline, this is going to give you plenty of room for cropping and resizing your images. You can also film slow motion with the G85 as well, but you do take a hit in resolution and bitrate. The resolution will be 1080p at 60 frames per second and with a bitrate of 28 megabytes per second. It's not the greatest, but it is usable. The Panasonic Lumix G85 is a 16 megapixel micro four thirds hybrid camera that's able to capture JPEG and RAW photos. It also has a cool feature called 4K photo mode that allows you to extract still images from a 4K video that you've captured. One of the outstanding features with the G85 is its in-body internal stabilization, or IBIS for short. If you're using a native lens that has in-body image stabilization as well, you're going to get what they call dual image stabilization, which is going to get you pretty close to gimbal-like footage. The G85 has 8-bit color science. Along with that, they give you a number of color profiles that you can choose from, and they also give you 2 color profiles that have a logarithmic curve, Cinelike D and Cinelike V. Cinelike D is a flatter color profile that's going to give you a little bit more playroom if you like to do a little bit of color grading yourself in post-production. And with Cinelike V, it has a more contrasted curve that's going to give you a filmic look that you don't have to edit, and it's great to use just straight out of camera. Another downside to the G85 is it doesn't have the most reliable autofocus. If you're thinking about picking up a G85, this is something that you should be aware of. And if you're a user of the G85 for some time, this is something that I'm sure you already know about. One of the ways that you can get around using the autofocus is setting your focus first and then clicking it to manual focus or switching it to manual focus. From there, you can use this feature called focus peaking. This is going to highlight the areas of your footage that are in focus, and it's going to help you to know what's in focus when you're looking at the tiny little screen on the back of your camera. That's if you're not using a bigger monitor like an external monitor. A couple of ways that you can get around this downside is to use the tap to focus feature on the screen, or you can use an external flash trigger that you can plug into the G85. The G85 has a cool feature called 4K live cropping that basically does a pan and zoom inside the camera itself. What you do is you set these boxes, the start point and the end point. You can change the size and the direction that you want them to go, and then you hit the start button. It's going to execute the pan and zoom for you, and it's going to do this all inside the camera. And it's pretty cool because it's going to help you to save a little bit of time from having to do that in post-production. The last few features I'm going to talk about have to deal with composing your shot and exposing your image. For composing your shot, we can choose one of the 3 grid features that the G85 offers. I like to use the rule of thirds along with the center marker feature, and this is going to help me to align something up on one of these specific thirds or to make sure that I have something centered in the frame. For the exposure tools, the G85 offers us the histogram, the zebra lines, and the exposure meter as well. Typically, I'm setting my zebra lines at 65% for the skin tones, and the second one I set to 95% to help me preserve the highlights. With the histogram, this is a tool that I don't really use too often, but it is something that I should be learning how to use a little bit more better. The idea behind the histogram is it shows you some information inside of a box. If the information is too far over to the left, that means that your image is underexposed, and if the image is too far over to the right, that means that your image is overexposed. The goal is to try to have most of the information inside the histogram box towards the center. And most times, if you can get it lined up perfectly for the perfect exposure, that information will turn white. Let me know in the comments what exposure tool you like to use the best. Do you use the histogram, the zebra lines, or do you like to use like an external monitor and use false color? Well, that's going to wrap up this video here on the top features that I use on my G85 on a regular, consistent basis. Let me know in the comments if you think there's anything that I might have missed that you thought should have made the list, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for stopping by.